Hey guys, Carmen back answering another great question. I get this question a lot. What is myofunctional therapy? And I just felt like it was probably time to answer it again here on social media. So myofunctional therapy, in an easy explanation, I tell people is like physical therapy for mouth and face muscles. So when I'm standing in line at the post office and somebody asks me about myofunctional therapy, I will tell them, I work with people who have tongue ties, breathing concerns, snoring concerns, swallowing, digestive complaints, that kind of stuff. Now, understand that myofunctional therapy is a complementary therapy. So I'm not the unicorn that's going to solve every single one of your problems, but myself, along with other providers, I call it your comprehensive healthcare team, they are going to help with that. So when I work with somebody that has myofunctional impairments, that could be incorrect tongue posture, incorrect mouth posture. They might be mouth breathers. They might just have bad breathing habits. They might have chewing and swallowing issues, speech concerns. I mean, there's a long list. So you can find that all over my social media. You can look at any of my resources. But that in and of itself, it is a brief explanation about what myofunctional therapy is. Now, next on my list is who should do myofunctional therapy. So lots of people are referred to me from orthodontists, like, hey, I have a tongue thrust. I need to fix that. Which is fine and dandy, but a tongue thrust is not the problem. It is a symptom of a bigger problem, and that's an oral rest posture problem. And so we get to the bottom of that. A lot of my clients, not gonna lie you guys, a lot of my clients have tongue ties, okay? And that's where the tongue is tied down to the floor of the mouth. So if you Google it, you're going to find probably some of the worst tongue ties, okay? Not everybody is like that. And so a lot of times people will look at, where that frenum inserts on underneath the tongue, and they look at this, which is the free tongue, and then we look at that posterior elevation of the tongue. So a lot of my clients, they might be relatively decent out here, so they can stick their tongue out. They've asked their dentist, hey, do I have a tongue tie? And he or she says, hey, stick your tongue out. No, you're good. But those people have, a posterior place. They've got an obviously short or thick or combination thereof, these other adjectives, that prevents them from lifting the back of the tongue up. So that's a bigger concern to me in my world, because my oldest client that I started working with was 79, and it was so incredibly difficult to teach her how to swallow correctly when she had been doing it wrong for so many years. So that's something to think about. So going back to who should do myofunctional therapy, if somebody suspects a tongue tie, if somebody has open mouth resting posture, if they have a breathing problem, if they have sleep quality issues, there's a lot of things that can cause sleep quality problems. And at the end of the day, you guys, getting air is the most important thing, and getting good sleep is the most important thing. And so I know a lot of you come to me and you only want to deal with the tongue tie, but I tell people all day, every day, my biggest concern for you is the sleep quality. So definitely something to think about. And a great myofunctional therapist is going to help you screen for those red flags of upper airway resistance syndrome, of obstructive sleep apnea, and that kind of stuff. So if you have any of those things, then definitely starting working with a myofunctional therapist to at least help you develop a plan. That's the biggest thing. Is I tell people, I feel like they should start with a myofunctional therapist, whether it's me or somebody else. And that's just because we're kind of like the tour director. So we're going to help you when we say, okay, start here. Oftentimes that's not with me. Somebody will do a comprehensive assessment with me and I say, okay, wait, your kid has more concerns. Like, we need airway focused orthodontic intervention. We might need sometimes the ENT, because I have no business taking your money and trying to work with you on nasal breathing if you physically can't nasal breathe. So if you have swollen turbinates, if you've got polyps, if you've got a deviated septum, that kind of stuff, sure, you might be able to, take 1 or 2 breaths through your nose, but if your go-to most comfortable breathing mechanism is through your mouth, we might need an allergist, we might need an ENT, we might need a dietitian or a nutritionist, that kind of stuff, to just really help you get away from things that could be triggering you or making matters worse, okay? So with that said, the last thing that I'm just going to touch on is how to get started. So like I alluded to earlier, finding your myofunctional therapist. So that isn't necessarily just finding somebody who is in your town. You may not have anybody like me in your town. There's a reason I work around the world. And that's because people like me are not on every corner. I think the biggest thing that I encourage people to consider is finding somebody that they know, like, and trust, that they have a personality match connection with. I've been there. I've had to work with clients, way back in the beginning of my business, where we just weren't a great personality match. And it was hard, and I dreaded seeing those people on my schedule. So finding somebody who you jive with. I have a lot of people who jump ship with other therapists come to me, and that's one of the first things they say is, Carmen, I shouldn't have worked with them in the first place because they just weren't my people, okay? So find somebody who you mesh with. Don't worry about price. I know that seems easy to say for one person over the other. I always say, those are details that figure themselves out. Our prices are all generally about the same. It's kind of like you go to the dentist and you're going to expect to pay XYZ for a crown. You're not going, you'll have some crazy outliers, but overall, everything's going to be pretty close. So I don't think price personally should be the reason that you pick somebody. Again, it needs to be their level of expertise, how you feel about working with them, what their goals for you are, what your goals for you are. I work in the arena of wellness, so I don't work with people who only want to fix the tongue tie or only want to fix the tongue thrust. If they can put their finger on the one thing, that's generally not the perfectly aligned client for me, because I work with people who want to be more motivated and sleep better and eat better and feel better and move their body and stretch and understand that the body is one ginormous unit, with lots of different things. So, and I don't operate in silo mentality. So there's lots of different pieces of the puzzle. So if you're just new to this rabbit hole and you're trying to figure out about getting started, you can, if you want to visit with me about your case, you can do that. Anybody can make a complimentary appointment. You can find that in my profile. You can also jump right to the comprehensive assessment, which everybody has to have anyhow. And during that, we look at all of your symptoms. We look at all of your photos and videos. I study the oral structures. I study all of your signs and symptoms, all of the stuff that you tell me. I have you do functional assessments. So identifying whether there's a tongue tie or not is not just about sticking your tongue out or can you lick an ice cream cone, okay? So about so much more than that, because it's about the oral function. It's not based on appearance. It's about how those muscles work. Can you retract? Can you protrude? Can you elevate? Can you lateralize? What can you create a suction? All of those different things, because those are all important. So we look at that stuff and then we kind of get a plan of attack. So getting started, you can go to my website. You can get any of my free resources. Look in my profile. There is so much. Also, every Friday, I remind you guys on Free Resource Friday of all of the free resources that you can find to get started, which is really, really helpful. So I hope that's really helpful. Kind of a long-winded explanation to what myofunctional therapy is, what I do. But again, basically physical therapy for mouth and face muscles. So I will see you back next time where I will be answering another great question.